Check, check, mic check. Check, check, mic check. Welcome to Podcast Envy. I'm your podcast boss, Andrea Klunder, and it is New Year's Eve. And if you are listening after that, never fear, it is still relevant. Is New Year's Eve the end? Is it the beginning? Is it both? I tend to find New Year's to be a time of excitement. I know some people hate it, some people love it, some people approach it with anxiety, some people approach it with FOMO. And at one point in time, I decided that I was done with all the holiday hoopla around New Year's Eve. I was done with spending tons of money on transportation, being out in the cold, trying to look cute, etc. And I wanted to create some specific rituals for myself that actually meant something. And today I'm going to share one of those rituals with you. But first, a few important announcements. Okay, so I want to thank you for being a loyal listener of Podcast Envy. I love making this show for you. And when I started it this year, 2018 in any case, it was with the intention of growing my podcast production, consulting, and coaching business, the Creative Impostor Studios. And that has happened. Wow, I can barely keep up. And that is why I'll be dropping back to episodes of Podcast Envy every other week rather than weekly. However, there is one way you can still get weekly ongoing content from me, and that is by becoming a podcast angel. Podcast angels directly support this show and the content that I offer for free here on Podcast Envy, and now you can become one, dear podcaster, with the Podcast Envy VIP Circle. I've been talking about the VIP Circle for weeks, and now it is finally ready. In exchange for your financial support, you will receive access to a super secret podcast feed filled with next level podcasting advice about how to grow your show, develop your culture, and have more fun with podcasting. We'll also have office hours with your podcast boss, that's me, Q&A sessions, masterclasses, and more. The content will be largely guided by you, my very first circle of VIPs. I'll be sending details and an exclusive invitation to be the first to join to my VIP list in early January. You can still get on that list at thecreativeimpostor.com/grow together. Also, if you are thinking of starting a podcast in 2019 to support your business, brand, or organization, and you happen to be in the Chicagoland area, I am facilitating a free class at Nextdoor Chicago, Thursday, January 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's called Is My Business Ready for a Podcast? Self-explanatory, right? We'll link it in the show notes for this episode number 41 at thecreativeimpostor.com/podenvy041. Finally, Podfest, Orlando, Florida, March 7 through 9, 2019. I will be leading a breakout session all about voice training for podcasters. It will be highly interactive, a little bit silly, and super useful for you to learn how to use this instrument that you have, which is your voice. We spend a lot of time thinking about what kind of microphone to use, what kind of gear we need, but really, all of that is secondary to actually learning how to utilize the most important tool that we have, which is our voice. Get your tickets for Podfest and look for more details from me coming soon. I will link, of course, to podfestexpo.com in the show notes. Okay, the New Year's ritual that I love the most. I started doing several years ago, and when I first started doing it, it was hard. And now it has become so easy. I actually really love doing it and seeing how fast I can do it. This is a list of things for which I am grateful. I know we just had Thanksgiving and we were talking about gratitude and making gratitude lists, and everyone did a gratitude episode except me. But this is a little different because this gratitude list has 108 slots on it. 108 things for which you are grateful from 2018. So not like from your whole life, but specifically from 2018. 108 things. These can be people, places, proper nouns, improper nouns, no, common nouns, right? They can be experiences. They can be things that happen to you. They can be moments. They can be gifts that you receive. They can be ideas, things that you've learned. Anything goes. And even better, I know I said I like to do it fast, but even better if when you write those things down, you also remember specifically why, specifically what it is about that thing, that person, that place, that experience that makes it come to mind. This idea of gratitude for the new year was to combat that horrible New Year, New You meme that I dislike so much, because I don't really think you need a whole new you in the new year. I think you need to carry with you all of the things that you've learned, all of your growing edges, all of your experiences. And no, not in the way that like burdens you down and is heavy baggage, but you need to take that with you, because that is how you grow into the new year. It's not about obliterating everything and starting again. It's about growing. So nope, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do set intentions for the year. It's a little bit softer. No, a lot softer than resolutions. But mainly, I like to practice gratitude at the end of the year specifically, so that I know what resources I have, who's in my quarter, what do I have available to me as I move into the new year. One of the things, which actually is probably many of the things that will be on my list this year, is podcasting. And so many aspects of podcasting. And so I wanted to open this exercise up, and I got some voice feedback from our community and want to share what they had to say about why they are grateful for podcasts, both from a listener and a podcast creator perspective. And at the very end of this episode, I will share with you why I am grateful for podcasts. First, we're going to hear from Dina Ranaday from an Herbal Diary podcast. Dina's show has a special place in my heart because I helped make it happen. Dina's show launched with the help of the Podcast Envy VIP one-on-one launch service not so very long ago. And we had so many challenges with Dina's show. Not her fault, but she had a very creative, out-of-the-box vision for what she wanted to do. And my audio engineer, Edwin Ruiz, and I really had to troubleshoot some things with her from afar because we do not live in the same area. And every time I listen to Dina's podcast, I feel so proud because we really did find a good solution for her. And she has grown as a podcaster. Her voice has become more prominent, clearer, more confident, and I am loving learning about herbs, something I never knew that I was going to be studying. In any case, here is Dina Ranaday, and of course, we will be linking to her show, An Herbal Diary, in the show notes.
Hi, Andrea. It's difficult to put into words how podcasts have changed my life and why I'm so grateful for them. I began as a listener, a very lonely listener, who suddenly had a world of audio friendship. If that wasn't enough to love, then I realized quickly that support, advice, guidance, they were all right there in my ears. I'm sure I would never have started my own podcast without the help I found in listening to podcasts. You, for one, I found on a podcast. Thank you for all the time you spent with me making my show come to life. I'm forever grateful for that. As a consumer and now independent creator, podcasting has taught me the power of voice and opened up a world of endless imagination. Thank you so much for the chance to put my gratitude for podcasting into words. Take care.
This next piece of voice gratitude is from Vivian Astara Sacalario. Oh, Vivian, your last name. I am not sure if I'm saying that right. In any case, Vivian is an avid listener and community member. She is also, unrelated to podcasting, a channel, teacher, mentor, coach, and artist. And she explains so eloquently from the perspective of benefit for the listener and benefit for the podcaster. I really couldn't have said it better myself. Here's Vivian.
I love podcasts. I love being able to get into my car and turn on a show that I get to be with on my way to work, or when I'm driving and want to hear something and learn about something. It feeds my curiosity. It stimulates my brain and my mind. It helps me take care of myself in various ways, depending on what I'm listening to, educating me. It's been powerful for me, and I've been able to connect with information that's been making me think a little differently. I'm really grateful that it's a newer medium for voice artists, for people that want to share storytellers, for people that are teachers and want to share information. I think it's a beautiful palette, and there is quite a bit of saturation in the podcast world today. But just like books, you get to select which ones suit you, and which ones you might listen to later, or which ones you are not really feeling. I also feel that it's kind of a symbolism in allowing to be expressive through the voice. So it's an up-leveling for humanity on some level, in which the throat chakra is being worked on collectively. It's a way to voice messages and theories and information, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm really grateful for podcasts and for the podcasters out there.
Next, we have John Thompson from Passion Nerdly. That's fun to say out loud. At passionnerdly.com. And this is a network of sorts for podcasts, blogs, and more for the geek and nerd community. I got connected to John through Rob Southgate of Southgate Media, and we will be linking to Passion Nerdly in the show notes for this episode. What I love about what John has to say is that it's really all about solving a problem. And the problem is community. Community building is hard, y'all. I don't know if you know this. It sounds like oh, we build a community around our show. Oh, we build a community. We build a meetup group. We just host events and we have an awesome community. Community building is hard work, and it takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of dedication, and I love John's approach. This is some really fun feedback.
Hi, Andrea and Podcast NV listeners. This is John from Passion Nerdly Podcasts at passionnerdly.com. It's quite the treat to have the opportunity to talk about the topic of podcasting, since most of our shows focus more on other pursuits, with podcasting acting as only the medium. One thing I can say about all podcasters is that we are both passionate about the subjects we share, and we want to be heard. Speaking in general terms, just for the first part because I think it's more relatable, before I got into podcasts, my friends and I realized that we were part of a community that lacked cohesion and direction. When we first wanted to do something about this, we weren't trying to start a podcast. Instead, we wanted to do community lectures, symposiums, or meetups. Anything to get people together who were interested in the subjects we liked and wanted to advance. The problem was, in this day and age, regardless of how connected we may seem through social media and modern technology, many people simply do not have the time to take out of their busy schedules to go somewhere and just sit and listen. We knew this. There were lectures and classes all the time for subjects that had a parallel purpose, and I never had the time to go to them, let alone organize my own. It was Roxy, my spouse and future co-host, who first suggested podcasting. It is free to listeners, doesn't require the legwork to find and secure venues, or permits, or getting people to attend, etc., and well, it just made sense for us. Unfortunately, even as podcast listeners, we didn't really know where to start. So we went to a few podcasting panels at a convention we were already attending, hosted by Matt Quiet of Nerds Domain with Rob Southgate of Southgate Media Group. We took notes, met with them privately to pick their brains, and 2 months later, we launched our first 2 shows. We spent our first several months in trial and error, but have built a faithful audience. Then at the same convention a year later, we were able to be part of those same panels for other new podcasters. That's what's so great about podcasts in our community. They're accessible to everyone, and there are many hosts willing to share their experiences. Podcasting has blessed us with an outlet to reach people, share our passions, build new relationships, and connect with like-minded people. We can sit around our table with our friends or guests and chat at length about whatever we want. Use our interest in musical composition to score a theme, or soundtrack. And have it uploaded immediately if we so choose, releasing it to listeners and devices worldwide. It truly is a wonderful medium, and I'm thankful for the platform it grants us. I look forward to seeing how this community continues to grow. Thank you, Andrea, for the opportunity to share our story with you and your audience.
And our final piece of community gratitude is from Ashley Lana Scott. Ashley is a community member and soon-to-be podcaster. Right, Ashley? And Ashley's story is so sweet. It's all about fulfilling a childhood dream, and it takes me back to the days pre-podcasting, pre-internet, to when I would be listening to the radio all night long. Here's Ashley.
I'm grateful for podcasts because when I was young, I used to love the radio. And I used to love the way that radio hosts would create a mood with their show. And so when I was young, I used to have these cassette tapes. My parents would buy them in bulk, and I would steal one and record at night the radio show on WGCI here in Chicago. The show was called Whispers in the Dark, and it was one of those after hours shows that played really like soft yet like sensual kind of music. And I love that R&B, neo soul, all of that kind of music. I loved it. And so I would take those cassette tapes and I would record my favorite songs on there. Sometimes I would record the whole show from 10 p.m. to like 2 o'clock in the morning. That was how long the show was. And I loved it so much. I literally did not go to sleep without it on. And my mom would be so mad. She would come in my room while I was asleep and turn it off. And I knew when she did that, every time she did it, I would just turn it back on and just put it a little quieter. But that gave me this like desire to want to create my own show, my own radio show. But I didn't know how to do that. And I definitely didn't want to go through academically going to college for broadcasting and all of those things. So I just threw that idea away. And I was just like, well, I'll just enjoy the radio. But podcasting gives me an opportunity to have my own show and think about things my own way. And maybe I'm not playing music on there, like copyrighted music, but I can still create that mood and share stories that are really close to me. And I can listen to other people's stories through their podcasts. So that's why I'm really grateful for podcasting.
Thank you so much to everyone who contributed their gratitude to this episode. I would love to hear from you listening right now. Why are you grateful for podcasts? What is it about podcasting that is so compelling? What is it about listening to podcasts that really enriches your life? You can share on Instagram, post a visual of why you love podcasting. This could be a photo. This could be a screenshot of a podcast you love to listen to or your favorite podcast that you've ever created. It could be an audiogram if you know how to make those fancy things. Whatever you wish, post to Instagram and use the hashtag podcastgratitude. And for bonus points, tag me at Andrea Clunder so that I'm sure to see it. All right, so I promised that I would share with you why I am grateful for podcasting. I mean, here I am podcasting of all things. I never in a million years would have imagined this. Not when I was a kid in elementary school, in school plays and community theater and performing in church. Never would I have imagined this when I was in high school, also performing on stage, but doing behind the scenes stage crew work, building sets and running lights and sound. Never would I have imagined this when I went to college for vocal music performance and secondary education, and then switched my major a bunch of times, landing in mass communication with an emphasis in film, video, and broadcast. Never would I have imagined it when I moved to Chicago and started working for the Lyric Opera of Chicago in their technical and production department. Never would I have imagined it when I quit my full-time job and started my first business, a storefront yoga studio and spa. And never would I have imagined it when I closed that business due to running out of money. Shortly thereafter, I had to file bankruptcy, and I experienced the first and worst bout of depression of my life. I had no money, I had no business, I had no job, I had no income, and I had no idea who I even was at that point or what I wanted to do. I really didn't want to go get a job after having been a business owner, and I did not have any money or energy left to start a new business. What I did know was that I loved listening to podcasts. I had started listening to them, turned on to it by a friend who had made a recommendation to me. And when I listened to podcasts, I could imagine the podcaster's whole life and business. I could imagine what their community was like that they were building around their show. I could imagine what they did every day for work. I could imagine this feeling of being able to express yourself through voice and through words and through storytelling. And I could imagine connecting with all of these amazing people through interviews and networks. And I had no idea how to actually create a business out of a podcast. And in fact, I didn't really know how to make a podcast either, but I saw other people doing it. And so I thought it may not be a business. It may not have any income, and it may not be a job, but I can make a podcast. 1 year later, I launched the Creative Impostor in 2015, and now here I am with that lifestyle, with that network, with those friends, with a show, with a platform for self-expression, with a growing learning curve, and with an income. Seriously, guys, I'm not raking it in over here, but I actually have a business that is moving more and more towards sustainability. And it's amazing that this is the work that I get to do. So the truth is, when I find myself wondering how on earth it is that I got from wanting to be an opera singer or a screenwriter or a filmmaker or a yoga teacher, how it is that I got to podcasting, the truth is that I started podcasting because I had to. It was the only thing that I could do. And I'm so grateful that I'm here. So whether you are a current podcaster who wants to grow, who wants some support, who wants to have more fun, more results, more impact with your show, or you're launching a new podcast, or you're dreaming of launching a new podcast, I'd love to support you in the new year. Get on the VIP list, learn more about the circle, come to my free class in Chicago, or join the Launch Pod and get your show launched in early spring of 2019. All of these things are there for you in the show notes for this episode at thecreativeimpostor.com/podenvy041. Seriously, let's do this together. Special thanks to everyone who has helped make Podcast Envy and the Creative Impostor Studios a reality in 2018. Edwin Ruiz, my audio engineer, Maddie Shuchuk, my editing apprentice, and Maddie, I think you're getting a promotion. We need to change your title. Associate editor? To all of my coaches and mentors, especially Robin Conley Downs and Elsie Escobar. To my clients, I love you. I literally could not do this without you. To my colleagues and my pod buddies, and to you, my Podcast Envy listeners. Thank you. I look forward to continuing to serve you in 2019. Peace, love, and podcasting. Podcast Envy is produced by your podcast boss, Andrea Klunder. That's me. The Podcast Envy theme music is by Valentin Sosnitsky, courtesy of the Free Sound Project at freesound.org, and our podcast Angel music is by Benjamin Mastropolito, also on freesound.org as Lemon Cream. All music is licensed under the Creative Commons. Our episodes are mixed by Edwin Ruiz, and hey, if you want your show to sound as good as ours, hire us. Put the magic audio mojo of the Creative Impostor Studios to work for you. Thanks so much for listening, and here's to making your podcast the envy of everyone else.